Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Clips channel. Today we're going to take a look at something completely innocent and benign. Today we're going to completely just look at some random videos. Or perhaps we're going to uncover a conspiracy that's been decades in the making. Something that threatens to ruin the fabric of the entire public's trust in our entire administration or government or world or reality or any kind of semblance of sanity that we might even ever have ever again. Anywho, today we're going to be talking about conspiracies. If you like conspiracies, and if you like tales of ghostly, ghouly goblins, and if you like people reacting, guys in their middle age just chilling on videos, reacting to stuff that they find exciting and fun and interesting, then go ahead and subscribe. I would appreciate it. We're trying to build a community here, and the best thing that you can do is either drop a like or subscribe or share the video. I mean, even just saying hi in the comments helps, and everyone needs a little help sometimes. I think that was a Beatles song, was it not? Anywho, let's get into the clips. We're going to take a look at a clip whose caption says, "Tell me a conspiracy that you believe to be 100% real."
Stanley Kubrick helped NASA fake the moon landings, was told not to tell anyone, tried to tell us anyway, then tried to expose the elite, mild classic king rings around the world, but ended up 6 feet under before he did.
Well, no. While Stanley Kubrick was a creative genius and the mind behind some of the most influential films that have ever been released, was not trying to tell us that the moon landing was fake. We have mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence that we've gone to the moon. Several times now, actually. All of the Apollo projects, weren't just nothing. Same thing with the Artemis project was not just nothing. And not to mention the fact that all other countries that have active space programs have evidence that they themselves have also gone to space. So is the argument here that we haven't gone to space, or is the argument here that we never went to the moon? Because both are correct. I mean, not the conspiracies, but we have gone to both space and the moons. I don't know who would still believe that we haven't. I think that that's a bit of a leap in logic, considering the mountains of proof.
Was one of the most famous directors in history, known as the most detail-oriented and hidden message visionary in all of filmmaking. He only made a handful of movies during his time, and they're still all being meticulously studied by movie buffs to this day, still finding hidden meanings in them all the time. Every single tiny object, angle, lighting, positioning, words, effects, zooms, backgrounds, everything in his movies is extremely intentional. And
I would say that most of the stuff is intentional, but that doesn't mean that you can just make the leap to say that he's trying to say something that's happening in reality that isn't actually happening. What you're doing is you're taking a look at something retrospectively and you're trying to fit whatever narrative that you're building into those things. That's very easy to do. That's what we do a lot with the Bible. That's what we do a lot with like Nostradamus's stanzas. People believe that they can fit a meaning onto something retrospectively when that really is just you applying your own bias to things. I think it's called confirmation bias or cognitive dissonance. I think cognitive dissonance is more when you're being introduced with proof that refutes your worldview and you choose to use weird logic to get around it. You logic yourself into just believing it anyway. Not quite sure what the nuance there, what the difference is, or if I'm getting those terms correctly, so let me know in the comments if I'm getting it incorrect. I appreciate it.
All has a very specific purpose. Now in the 60s, Kubrick set out to create his first mega hit project, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is widely regarded as the greatest sci-fi movie ever made.
I would say at the time that people were appreciating it for what it was, it would have been widely regarded for being the best sci-fi movie ever made, but there have since been other films that have really unseated it. Like, even just Star Wars. Even just Star Wars is widely considered to be one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. I don't think that there's really a pedestal where someone could knock off the top position, but I think in the pantheon of the best sci-fi movies ever made, 2001 is kind of outdated. It's a little out of touch at this point. I think only the people who are utterly devoted to the Church of Stanley Kubrick would really push back against that and say that no, in fact, 2001 is still one of the most the greatest sci-fi films of all time. I just don't think that we're there anymore. I think that we've moved so far beyond that, and sci-fi movies still keep coming out. So there's the potential that there could be 1,000 of the best sci-fi movies that wouldn't include 2001, and that could be hotly debated. I don't know. You guys tell me if you think that you disagree with what I'm saying, but I think it's been knocked off the list for a while now, man.
And it kind of didn't make sense with how advanced it was for its time. This movie came out in 1968. Like, this is how sci-fi movies looked like back then. Then out of nowhere, where this movie comes out and looks like that? Like,
no, what you're talking about is the difference between a television show and a movie. Vastly different budgets, vastly different resources. And in terms of Stanley Kubrick doing something that hadn't been done at the time, you're right. There was a lot of technology that was coming up, a lot of these methods to communicate what you had in your brain onto the screen that didn't exist at the time, and so you had to kind of create your own pathways for things like that. Stanley Kubrick was a decent pioneer, you know, like doing a bunch of his own like necessary concepts for things that he was developing. Totally cool. Great. It's because he was a singular individual. It's because he was a genius. That's why people respect him so much. What you're doing is you're taking his entire history and you're saying like none of that means anything. It's so cool that this random dude was able to come up with methods that nobody else had in order to create the things that he wanted to create. Like you're discounting the entire fact of why Stanley Kubrick is so respected in order to not use that as the reason. It's not because he was just like the willful dumbass who the government used to make something who then got disgruntled and decided to tell the public. No, this guy was a genius. This guy had all those things in his brain and he made the processes to make those things real. And so that's why he's such a pioneer. Like, Jesus.
Crisp and realistic, they literally look like they were filmed in 8K yesterday. But this movie came out almost 60 years ago. Now, theories went around that Kubrick actually received shadow funding from the US government and NASA to shoot this movie as a sort of test run to see how accurately they can depict outer space on TV screens.
Now, in the process of creating a movie, there is every proper assumption that can be made that a director or creator would do whatever they can to learn as much about the medium that they're filming in, space, the ocean, things like that, in order to do so accurately. That doesn't mean that they're being secretly funded by some shadow organization. It doesn't mean anything sinister in terms of filmmaking. That's simply the process of research that they do. Yeah, you gotta spend a lot of money on that. In terms of like space flight and like trying to get shit like that correct, it just goes to show you that Stanley Kubrick was maybe a little OCD or probably on the autism spectrum or something, because he was really dedicated to making sure that things were authentic. That's why it's such a good movie. Again, you're taking just the normal processes of filmmaking and you're applying them to this narrative that you're developing. You're not giving him credit. Like, he was a genius. That's why everything was so good. He was dedicated to making sure that the stuff was authentic, so he went to talk to these like government programs, and I'm sure that they probably gave him like enough information for him to build his fantastical world, but that doesn't mean that like aliens are true. It doesn't mean that he like faked the moon landing. It doesn't mean like that there's a secret underwater civilization or anything like that, you know? Like, none of these things that we could come up with as conspiracy theories are going to validate whatever Stanley Kubrick made or James Cameron made or Steven Spielberg made, because they made just about any otherworldly concept that you can imagine. That's why this is in the zeitgeist. That's why those concepts are so popular now, because they changed culture around the films that they made. That's why they're so good. This video is pissing me off.
And well, Stanley Kubrick nailed it, to say the least. Receiving access to special cameras and equipment that no one else had to show us space like we've never seen before.
But he still didn't get things in 8K. He still didn't get things in high definition. They didn't have the technology to show what the real actual things that we would be seeing if we were in spaceflight were, so they did the closest approximation. If they were showing him like demonstrations of these like advanced technological discoveries, then wouldn't he have known stuff that was like decades ahead of its time? But he didn't. He didn't use any of that stuff in his film. He didn't have that be the basis for any of the plot points. And it's not because the government would have like, oh, well, I'm sorry, you're giving away too many government secrets, we're gonna have to shut you down. No, they gave him the information in the first place, and he probably had to pay for it. Yes!
This movie even had an entire, albeit short-lived, scene of humans on the moon. And do you know what happened just 1 year after Space Odyssey came out in 1968? We went to the moon in 1969.
Yeah, we did. Because it was already happening. We already had that, like, the funding was in place. The government programs were in place. Do you honestly think that planning a trip to the moon takes less than a year? Because you're acting like it. You're saying that the production process for a movie, which takes 8 months to about a year and a half, that in that time, NASA decided we want to go to the moon, then procured the budget to go to the moon, then went to the moon, all unbeknownst to society, so that it's now surprising that when a guy like Stanley Kubrick makes 2001 Space Odyssey, that it's coincidental that the next year we went to the moon? Do you know how long the space race had been going on for? Do you know how long that space, that going to the moon, that going into space, that building a rocket that can make it outside of Earth's orbit. Do you know how long that was in the zeitgeist? Do you know how long people have been talking about that? Many, many years. Many, many, many years. And because a movie comes out every year just about that talks about people in fantastical situations, don't you think one of those movies would have been about space travel? Maybe back then, maybe in a coincidental, and maybe at a time that was coincidental enough that there was something rocket-oriented happening in real-world reality? Yes.
Reclaiming that in return for the funding and technology he received for the movie, Kubrick had to help NASA stage the moon landings, telling him he's not allowed to tell anyone he did or else. But
sure, many sources claim that I'm a fucking Arcturian. Many sources can claim whatever the fuck you want them to. It doesn't mean that they're right, nor that they are trustworthy. My God, how old are you?
the guilt got to him, and Kubrick needed to somehow get the truth out there. So instead, he took it to his movies to leave clues and hidden messages about what he really did. 12 years later, he releases another breakout hit, The Shining. And this is the one that people say is so littered with clues that tell us Stanley Kubrick helped NASA fake the moon landings that it all but confirms it. And it all
Yeah, and you know, a funny fact about The Shining, a year later after The Shining came out, a man murdered his family, showing that Stanley Kubrick actually can predict the future. I don't know if you guys knew that.
all starts with the famous room 237, the haunted guest room in the hotel of the movie. In the original book, The Shining, which is what the movie's based on, the room was 217, with Kubrick changing it to 237 for the movie for no apparent reason. Well, it just so happens that the moon is 237,000 miles away from us.
No, it wasn't for no apparent reason. I believe that was either his dorm room in college or it was the name of the classroom. So if you guys are familiar with the A113 or something like that, there was his first film that he came out with before 2001 Space Odyssey that was about, I believe, human cloning. Coincidentally enough, a year after that, a human was cloned. Whatever. That became, so the name of that movie became like a running theme throughout his other movies. You know, it was like a little Easter egg that people would know. It's like the same thing for Pixar movies, which that's the name of the classroom in which the original Pixar team all learned their stuff, right? At the college or the whatever in Emeryville that they all learned at. The A113 or whatever that is it's a designation. I forget what it's in regards to. It's either in terms of film or it's in terms of Stanley Kubrick's personal life, but it's just a callback to something that he remembers. Same thing with pretty much a lot of the themes that he talks about in, you know, the subsequent interviews that he did to talk about his movies. He says that he lays like the groundwork for a lot of people to recognize who he is in his movies through his either stylistic choices, design choices, or theme elements that make his movies his movies. Part of that was incorporating little Easter eggs from his personal life into his productions. One of those being changing the room from 213 to 237 or whatever the fuck it was. It's completely innocuous.
Or at least that's what we thought back then. We now have more accurate measures and know it's a little over 238,000.
Which means that's completely wrong. Which means that what you just said is completely fucking wrong. Because if we know, the thing is, if we know roughly how far away the moon is right now, we fucking knew back then. We fucking knew. How the fuck do you think we got people there?
There's even a close shot of the key to the room, whose letters can be used to spell moon room, implying he was trying to use this room as a metaphor for the moon. All throughout.
I'm sorry. So every hotel room that has a key that says room number on it? Oh my God. I'm fucking sorry. But using that logic, literally every single hotel room ever that has ever had a key that says room number on it could be potentially a moon room for Stanley Kubrick's leaking of government shadow money that allowed him to film the moon landing and then try to cover it up. Is that what he went into the hotel key business and made sure that each key that has a keychain on it is emblazoned with the words room number so that he can make them all anagrams for moon room? It's not even an anagram. You have to use letters twice. What an asshole.
The movie, characters talk about things happening in room 237 that we're not supposed to know about. When they're in the pantry, we see this product Tang all over the shelves in the back, which is a drink mix similar to Kool-Aid back then. A drink
which was famous among astronauts for a fucking advertising reason. It's because it happened to be one of the most popular drinks at the time. Dear God.
That had an official partnership with NASA at the time, being astronauts' powdered beverage of choice when up in space.
Right. So they like Tang, So NASA says, hey, why don't we just make a partnership with Tang? You make a little money, we make a little money, hell yeah. Why are we saying that rampant capitalism, as monstrous as that is somehow a conspiracy about moon landings? Dear Jesu Christo.
Tang even featured astronauts in ad campaigns, like in their 1969 For Spacemen and Earth Families.
What do you think that means? Why does that mean something sinister?
39 written all over them. Launchpad
39A
is where Apollo 11, the first manned mission to the moon, took off from, which looks like this. Oddly similar to the carpet pattern that Danny, the kid in the movie, is knelt down on. And if it was...
I guess, but that was the carpet that he saw at the hotel that he liked, and it became a sign of Kubrick after the fact. Like, now you're just making shit up and then attributing it to him. Hey, you know, that random launch pad that one rocket left off of one time looks strangely, if you mimic the pattern and then you like tile it exactly like the fucking pattern in the video, it's gonna look kind of like the video. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that so strange? It's gonna look almost like exactly like that carpet looks if I take this fucking picture and flip it upside down and tile it next to each other in the same exact way that the carpet looks. Of course. That's a conspiracy. That means that they were trying to hide something. Dear fucking goddamn.
It's obvious enough when Danny slowly gets up from this launch pad position on the carpet, we see him wearing a fucking Apollo 11 sweater, which has no connection to the movie whatsoever. He's just wearing it.
And yet Apollo 11 was super fucking popular at the time. The entire Apollo line, like, you saw like models for Apollo 11. You saw like toys, like spaceship toys, wooden toys, riding rockets that were all about Apollo, the Apollo 11, Apollo 13, you know, all that shit. When they like are announcing that these things are starting, these projects are starting, they become very popular because fucking people at the time wanted to go to space. It was really popular. It was like Cowboys and Indians, or Cowboys and Spacemen, or Cowboys and Firemen. You know, kids all wanted to be one of two things.
Again, Stanley Kubrick was a maniac. He would not have a main character in the movie wearing something like this for no reason. The line all work and no play in Jack's manuscript, the word all is written as A11, as in Apollo 11.
Yes, creators that are really OCD about what they want for design choices, they still rely on people who are experts in these fields to tell them what's good and what's important, all that kind of stuff. It still goes through a bunch of hands and goes through a bunch of heads before final costuming design choices are made. And so just because just because the kid happens to be wearing an Apollo 11 t-shirt, it just is reflective of the fact that kids really liked space and spaceships at the time. That's all. I guarantee you can probably find 50 other similar shirts in the stores at the time. It's exactly the same as that.
The typewriter he works with is a German Adler, which translates in English to Eagle, the name of the Apollo 11 lunar lander.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
So a code name is a lot different than what a lander is actually called, and Adler is the name of a typewriter company that is completely disparate from anything having to do with space or eagles. Adler is a very common German name. Just because something's named, god damn, dude. Stanley Kubrick didn't care this much. He didn't care as much as you. He didn't care nearly as much as you. God damn, dude. You really are just picking apart anything that you can to make it mean whatever the fuck you want.
And the famous ghost twins in the movie allegedly represent the two failed Gemini missions that preceded Apollo. Then there's just the name of the movie itself, 2001, a year where a lot of stuff went down.
Okay, dear God, now you're saying that he actually did predict the future. You're saying, just offhanded, you're saying 2001, a year in which a lot of stuff happened. Isn't that coincidental? Yes, it's coincidental. Come on, man. Gemini has a loose association with twins because it's named Gemini. Do you honestly think that Artemis, that we're gonna go like fucking hunt the moon? Like, what are we talking about here? Why are you reading into things that have no bearing on anything? There are conspiracies that are happening right now, and you're not even fucking paying attention.
But hey, I get it. To the average moviegoer, myself included, these hints and hidden messages just seem like absolutely insane reaches. But the mind of a visionary director is just different. Their attention to detail is everything, and they do want viewers meticulously reading into their art.
In that it fuels narrative speculation, in that it fuels a desire to learn more and to experience more. In terms of that art, yes. Not to realize truths about the government hiding goddamn space faking. There's just so much evidence that we've gone to space that it is insane to first believe that we didn't, but also second, that Stanley Kubrick somehow had something to do with it.
That's part of film, which leads us to this picture of Stanley Kubrick walking around the set of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and in the background we see Jolly West, a psychiatric consultant for the CIA.
For the CIA, a consultant, so somebody who would help consult on the technical aspects of these parts of the film process, correct?
In the 50s and 60s, most notably involved with MKUltra, where he led government-funded experiments on brainwashing, hypnosis, coercive persuasion, and dosing unsuspecting victims with LSD.
Again, shown there were 12 instances where they said, in the years of study that they did, there were 12 instances in which they said that psychic aptitude was above normal prescience levels, which is about the average assessment that you get from any kind of psychic testing these days. All that means is that humans have the capability of having above natural prescience, but that doesn't mean the presence of psychic ability. It doesn't mean ESP. It doesn't mean you can mind read. It doesn't mean that you can project your mind anywhere. Nothing like that. It just simply means that we are really good at recognizing patterns. And just like an LLM does, it doesn't actually have a conversation with you. It just brings up patternistic results based on internal processing that allows it to pick and pull the best words to choose to respond to whatever words it is that you use to type into it. It's the same shit. Our brain works in a way that we recall knowledge almost instantaneously. And so when we're trying to attribute meaning to something, especially something that seems out of the ordinary or something that doesn't seem entirely sensical or might involve paranormal or pseudoscientific concepts, we try to apply whatever it is that we recognize to that. So like recognizable patterns. So let's say that I was being tested for, psychic ability. My brain, like let's say you're holding up a card, right? And you say, I want you to predict the number of the on this card, and I want you to predict the suit, right? Or whatever symbol you see on it. So a human brain, without us being conscious of it, a human brain is aware that cards exist. A human brain is aware that cards with different numbers exist. And the way that we tie real life to that, reality to that, is by saying it's a deck of cards, right? Decks of cards have 52 cards. You usually omit the Joker, and you have 4 suits, and it's 13 cards, and ace is essentially the spot of 1. So my brain already knows that without me having to physically, manually, mentally, presently recall any of that information. It knows that, it's using whatever knowledge it has of that, it's recalling it and pushing it into the front of my brain so that I can associate whatever this is that I'm looking at, these cards that are in front of my face, so I can associate with that memory. My brain then goes about the processing. I then start doing all the behind the scenes stuff in my brain that tells me that, okay, since there are 13 cards, there's a 1 in 13 chance that I'm going to get it correct. Out of 4 suits, there's a 1 in 4 chance that I'm going to get the suit correct. And if I'm a smart person, then I have a lot of other knowledge that I can reference that might help me make the best decision that might actually accurately guess the card. But for the most part, we're not going to do that. For the most part, it's a very low chance that you're going to get a 1 out of 13 just on a whim, and that you're going to get a 1 out of 4 on a whim, right? Let alone match up the 2. But statistically, there's a very low chance that that's going to happen, right? At least 1 in 13 and 1 in 4, right? So the number of people that are going to get it right in, let's say, over a decade worth of testing is pretty high, probably way more than 12. Which tells me that if the disclosures of the papers that had anything to do with MKUltra only said that there were about 12 positive results in the wealth of information that they had and the wealth of testing that they did, to me that's a pretty abysmal number, and it shows that humans just are not capable of psychic activity. Well, today was a short one. I could have gone on more and more about how ridiculous it is to imagine that we didn't go to space, let alone go to the moon. Next upload, we'll cover the other 2 videos that I wanted to react to in this, and hopefully they won't take as long. But if you liked this commentary and you want to see more, then please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. For now, I've been Goose, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And, go drink a bunch of water, We kind of need it. It's important. Gotta stay hydrated out there. Hug a loved one. And if no one else has told you this today, just remember that you're important and that you matter and that there is help out there and that there is another day. That's it. I'm Goose. Have a great day.